Welcome to the Unapologetic Truths podcast. We're your hosts, Armani Talks and LifeMathMoney, back for episode 24. If you're listening from YouTube, go on and drop that like on your way in. Hit that subscribe button. We are a new channel and we are going to be posting future content on this YouTube channel. If you're listening from podcast, be sure to leave a review at your convenience. And let's get started with today's episode. What's up, Harsh?
I'm doing well. How are you doing, Arman?
I'm doing well. Just coming back from the gym.
Yeah, I just got back from the gym, ate about 14 eggs to get my protein in, and here with you now.
Bro, I don't know how you eat before these podcasts. Like, don't you burp? Don't you feel soggy?
I'm good at video editing. But to answer your question, not really. No, no, no. I'm
What's-
used to eating a lot. So for me, right now, I'm on a cut. So for me, right now, I'm not eating as much as I was eating earlier.
oh, you're finally
So
on a cut? I feel like every time I'm talking to you, you're bulking.
yeah, I'm finally on a cut. I went way overboard with the bulk, so I need to cut a bit extra this time.
Hmm.
But yeah, this time I'm cutting a bit more seriously than previously. So earlier when I would cut, I would not do cardio. I would only rely on diet. But now I'm doing cardio and I'm getting in like 10 to 15,000 steps a day. One thing I was wrong about was smartwatches. I used to think smartwatches are bullshit, right? What's the point? You just need the time and it's another thing to charge.
Hmm.
But I bought a new phone and I got a free smartwatch with it. And the smartwatch is actually very, very interesting as a tool because it tracks your steps.
Hmm.
And that's very advantageous because you know how active you were during the day by how many steps you walked. It's a very good proxy for, your daily activity or your NEAT. That is your non-exercise thermogenic activity, non-exercise activity thermogenesis. So it's a very good tool to measure that you are actually doing things in your day and not just sitting on your chair in front of your computer.
Hmm.
And the smartwatch, like the step tracking really takes cuts to the next level because if you're active throughout your day, you burn way more calories and you lose a lot of fat much faster. And
Is
of
it a
course, you can
Fitbit?
eat more food. Go ahead.
Is it a Fitbit or is it one of those actual smartwatches?
This is a Galaxy Watch 4.
Ooh, okay.
So I bought this phone. It's like an S22 Ultra or something. And the reason I bought it was that I don't like the iPhone. So I asked my friend, what's the best phone in Android that has the best camera? Because
Hmm.
I need the camera for Instagram, for LifeMathMoney sometimes. And I hate carrying like an iPhone along with my Android. So I got the best Android phone and I got this watch free with it. So I thought, let me give it a spin. It's free. And I know I don't like I always thought these watches would be bullshit. But now that I'm using it, I realize I was wrong about them.
And it doesn't only just count your steps, it also measures your sleep and like the food that you're getting in. And it has some other features too, right?
It has a heart rate monitor, which is useful, like especially if you're doing cardio. It helps you monitor that you're in zone 2 and not in like zone 4 or something. So that is very useful. Regarding the other thing, the sleep monitor, I did try it out. Like I did go to sleep wearing the watch for a few days, but it's really annoying to sleep with a watch on your hand.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? So nowadays I just don't wear it while sleeping. Like it just doesn't feel right.
I feel like I need one of those watches because I'm pretty religious with my walking. So I walk pretty much every single day. And what I do is I measure it uh, by laps or how much time that I've been walking. But I don't necessarily know how much calories I'm burning, how much steps I'm taking, or any of
I
the nitty gritty details.
I think the calories, the estimate it gives you is not very accurate, but the amount of steps is a very good proxy of activity levels across your day, which is good to have. You should give it a try. You get this one, like it's Galaxy Watch 4, and
Hmm.
you can also pick up calls on it, which is also useful because if you're in a different room than your phone is, then you can like, just take the call here and get it settled.
You look like a secret agent. You're pulling
No,
up
you
your
don't
watch
have to do
too.
that. Like it's a loudspeaker, right? You don't have to like get your watch next to your mouth.
Okay. And you have the Galaxy one?
Yeah, the Galaxy 4, Galaxy Watch 4.
So I
I
was
should
the
definitely get Samsung to pay us for this.
let's get an endorsement deal. So I was recently debating about getting an iPhone. I mean, I'm Team Droid, and I've been Team Droid for some time. I used to have an iPhone before that, but the problem with the iPhone, Harsh, was that it just kept dying too quick, especially with a lot of the apps that I needed. And once I moved over to Droid, I saw that Apple was getting very cute with it. They had like uh, these AirPods, all these different chargers, a lot of these different wires. And I'm like, I don't want all of that. I just want the phone, and I want that to work very well. The reason that I've been thinking about going to iPhone again recently is because their camera is so much better than any Droid camera. And normally people are like, well, technically speaking, like this version of the Droid camera is just as good as the iPhone. I don't know, man. Like every single time I compare like the latest Droid camera pictures with the iPhone ones, iPhone not only wins, it blows out the Droid cameras. So that was one of the main reasons, Harsh, because I wanted to, step up my Instagram game like you, and you know, I wanted to take more pictures and more videos, and that was the main selling point. I haven't switched yet. I've been thinking about it.
So I have both an iPhone and an Android, and I have like the best Android phone out there and an iPhone 12. And I can tell you that the camera for iPhone makes the photo look a bit more natural. So I would say the camera is slightly better for the iPhone. But if you compare it with like the top end Android phone, the Android phone is also very, very, very good. It isn't crap at all. So usually when people shit on Android, it's because they're using like a cheap Android phone and comparing it with with like a more expensive iPhone. So in the range, if you compare it in the range, then definitely I would say the iPhone's camera is a little bit better. But, and this is a big but, iPhone has a very shitty user interface. It's really annoying to use. It just doesn't flow as well as Android, and uh, he- it just doesn't. I don't know. I like Android more. Maybe just habit. Although I will say that I have to have an iPhone as well, and I'm sure you will be forced into it also because a lot of the apps we use, the business apps, sometimes they only are available on iPhone, or some features are only iPhone only. I don't know why, but even for Twitter, like Twitter Spaces was when it started for the longest time it was iPhone only.
Hmm.
Twitter audio for the longest time was iPhone only. So a lot of applications have features which are iPhone only, and if you're running a business like we do, which you are, you need to have an iPhone simply because these companies will release these features only on the iPhone first. And then 6 months or 7 months later, it's also going to be on Android. So you have to wait 6 months if you have just
Hmm.
Android. I think the reason why they do this is because iPhones are standard in the sense that there's like a million Android phones with different
Hmm.
like produced by different companies, different versions, etc., etc. And all these companies added the software a little bit to put their own bloatware in it. But iPhones are very standard, right? All iPhone 12s are exactly the same. So
Yep.
for a company making a software, if they're testing something out, it makes sense to just make it for iPhone first, because then if they don't want to do it, they don't have to, like, if they make it for Android first, they would have to first make it for like make it compatible with like thousands of different types of phones, and that's a lot of extra work, right? Like there's going to be a way more bugs because your app works on Samsung XYZ phone, doesn't work on YZC phone, etc., etc. So it makes a lot of sense for these companies to just release for iPhone first. Even Clubhouse for the longest time was iPhone only. I'm not sure if they're iPhone only now or not, but
I think
I
they
can see
released
their
it Android
logic.
recently.
I can see the logic for iPhone first, but at the end of the day, it forces people like us to buy iPhones.
When are there going to be more variety? Where in 2005, man, you remember that era where it was so much phones to choose from. You had the BlackBerry, you had
The
the Sony
Nokia.
Ericsson, the Nokia with the little snake game. You had so much variety. Nowadays, it's like you're either Team Droid or Team iPhone. Do you see any other players in the phone market just emerging in the near future?
I don't know. I don't think so. I think that unless someone, let's say, forks Android and produces like a different version of Android where all the apps are compatible, then sure. But otherwise, I don't think so, because I think that it isn't just the companies, right? It's not just Google versus Apple. It's also like a developer ecosystem where the reason you buy, say, an iPhone or an Android versus some other soft, operating system is because you find all the apps on the Play Store for these two phones. Like every single thing is compatible with Android Play Store or Apple Play Store. And if you go with some, let's say you go with some Nokia user interface, Nokia, I don't know, Symbian, whatever it was called, you find that most apps aren't compatible with it. Then you are like, okay, my phone is much less useful. So I think that
Yeah.
we're stuck.
Is this a good thing or a bad thing?
It's a bad thing.
It's a bad thing.
It's a good thing for developers because you have to develop for like less stuff. Like you can just make an app for Android and an app for iPhone and you're done.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to worry about making apps for everything else. But I think over the long run, it's a bad thing because all these two companies are very, what do you call it, leftist. So
Mm.
any app they don't like is censored. Anything they don't want is removed, and it just isn't like a free platform. And they take 30% from the developer. I think we're moving towards progressive web apps now, where instead of downloading apps from the App Store, you just use a browser and then you say install from browser. Have you seen these before? And then you get like a shortcut on your screen,
Mm-hmm.
and instead of, you don't have to go through the Play Store to get an app anymore, which Apple really hates. My friend who makes progressive web apps, he says that Apple really, really hates these progressive web apps, and they try really hard that they don't work on iPhone. Like they will try to brick them on Safari, etc. And the reason is that Apple wants a 30%. In the sense that, let's say, Arman, you make a new app, Arman Public Speaking,
Mm-hmm.
and you can subscribe to the app on your website and then install the app from your browser. Apple doesn't want that. Apple wants the person to download the app from the App Store, then pay using the App Store, so they get 30%,
And they have the
and then
information
you,
too.
yeah, so they want the 30%. Apple really, really wants its 30%, and that's what's holding a lot of these industries back.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I could see that. I mean, I'm honestly wondering, like, if any phones can come in the near future, change things up. But you brought up something that I wasn't even considering. I mean, there is this little ecosystem for apps, where in 2005, 2006, apps weren't really even a thing. Like, your phone came built in with certain apps. They're like, this is all you get. So that's something, I guess, that's probably one of the reasons why there was so much more variety in 2005. It was a status symbol, dude. I remember when I had the Nokia, I thought I was like the big dog in town. And then there was this kid named Rahul. He comes with his Sony Ericsson, and he was considered the cool kid out of nowhere. Everyone's like, "Hey, did you hear? Rahul has the Sony Ericsson." And just with him having that phone, he became like the cool kid in the class. He was he didn't have anything else cool about him. He just had that nice product. And it became our version of like Pokemon cards and Digimon cards. This was in high school. Did you ever you play with Pokemon, by the way, or watch it or collect it?
Yeah, I used to watch it as a kid.
You did?
It was a big fad in India. We used to buy these cards, which now that I think about it, was such a waste of money, right? It
No,
wasn't even
dude.
a real
No,
toy.
those cards sell for a lot nowadays.
I don't know. I remember spending 10 rupees like every once in a while to buy like a pack of cards. And I didn't even know how to play the game. Like I know those cards were like a part of some game. I didn't know how to play it. And we
No
would
one
just
played
buy it and put it.
Pokemon game. No, no, listen, Harsh. No one played the actual Pokemon game. They collected the cards. If you wanted to actually play the game, you played Yu-Gi-Oh. Did you hear of Yu-Gi-Oh?
I'm aware of it, but I've never played it.
There was like this one savage who came up to us one time and it's like, do you want to play Pokemon?" I'm like, "The heck? No one really plays the Pokemon game." Um, but yeah, Harsh, if you go on Google, a Charizard Pokemon card sold for $420,000 The third highest price ever paid for a Pokemon card.
The
Third.
third highest. That's the third highest. What's
Yeah,
the
also,
highest?
I don't know, man. Probably a no. I know for a fact that Charizard is definitely the creme de la creme. So I guess it's a different variation of a Charizard, like a first edition, second edition. These are assets, man. Like if you have the right Pokemon cards, you could sell it for a lot right now.
It's like an NFT from the past.
Perfect analogy. That's a great analogy right there. Man, I gotta go home and see if my mom still has my Pokemon cards, man. Did you hear
The
about Digimon
cards.
before? Digimon?
Yeah, I used to watch Digimon also and Beyblade, and I remember the only card game I played was Duel Masters. If you've heard of that one,
Duel Masters. No, I haven't heard of that.
that was a good game.
Did you play Yu-Gi-Oh? Out of curiosity?
I did not Yu-Gi-Oh.
Dude, Yu-Gi-Oh was like this phenom for a while. Like in schools, like people were playing, people were, I mean, getting aggressive off of it if they lost. The Blue Eyes White Dragon, or Red Eyes Black Dragon. I mean, these were fads, man. And sometimes I wonder how much Yu-Gi-Oh cards are worth nowadays.
I don't know. Depends if they're still in production or not.
Hmm.
Have you heard of a game called Magic the Gathering?
Yes, it's a card game, right?
Yeah. It's a card game, and apparently it's very popular. Like they have these competitions for it. Like people actually pay and compete in a competition to win a match, and people will pay and watch those competitions.
Hmm. That was another card game that was popular. I just remember when I was in high school, all the weird kids would play Magic. I'm talking the nerdy kids. One kid wore a cape, the other guy had a purple hair, and they would all they would all gather in the cafeteria play Magic. And just seeing the people playing it just gave me a negative perception of the Magic game. I'm sure it's pretty cool, but Magic and World of Warcraft, like a lot of weird people played those games.
I've never played World of Warcraft. I know of Magic because of Bitcoin, in the sense that it was the first exchange to list Bitcoin, Mount Gox, which is
Hmm.
Magic the Gathering exchange, Mount Gox, and it got hacked, right?
I didn't know
And a
about
lot of
that.
Bitcoin was lost back in the day on Mount Gox. So that's how I came across this game. And I was like, hey, there was an exchange to exchange cards. And I was like, huh, that's interesting. I've come across some card company that makes like these funny cards, like Cards Against Humanity or something. I've seen it on Twitter.
Isn't that a board game?
I don't know what it is, but it has like, I think it's one of those games where there's like a question on one side and an answer on the other.
Hmm. It's like
And
black,
you
right? Black and white.
Google it. It's called Cards Against Humanity.
Dude, I was playing this in you know what dawats are? Like family
Yeah,
functions.
it's like a feast. It's like a feast.
Yeah, so there was one of the people, one of the guests who bought Cards Against Humanity. We played it. I don't remember the rules or anything. I just remember having a blast.
You played it with family.
Well, it wasn't like adults. It was like a lot of you know, in dawats when you go, like a lot of the adults hang out in one side, the kids hang out on the other side.
Yeah.
So I played with the kids. I mean, I forgot. Like, is this like not an appropriate game to play with adults?
I have never played the game, so I don't know. But I've seen the pictures on Twitter,
Hmm.
and it doesn't seem like a game to play even with adults. Like you would play it with a girlfriend or something. I would not know if you would play it in a formal setting.
Have you ever heard of Secret Santa before?
Yeah, I am aware of the concept. It's where like you give someone a gift, but they don't know who gave it to you, and you get
Right.
a gift. I participated in it once. It was a professional gathering, right? And it was like 100 people, and we were supposed to meet for like 20-30 days for like we were doing a course or something.
Mhm.
And yeah, so the name I got, I had no idea who this guy was. So I just offloaded stuff I was planning on throwing away for this guy. Like this book I never meant to read, I gave it to him.
The guy's like, "Oh my, I've been hoping for this all my life." The reason I bring up Secret Santa is because at this game, Cards Against Humanity is notoriously like the most a common gift that's often given in Secret Santa parties. I wonder if
Why is
there's a
that the
reason
case?
why. I don't know, man. I mean, like every Secret Santa I've been to, there's always like someone who's giving that game to someone else.
Have you ever come across a Secret Santa where a guy or like a girl didn't get a gift?
Yeah, man. I mean, I gave them an IOU. I was the guilty one. I was like, ah, dang. I completely forgot. So I'll show up, and everyone got a gift besides whoever I was the Secret Santa for. And I'm like, yo, my bad. I'll take you out to dinner, and I'll buy you one gift. But like the person is still grumpy because it's an event kind of thing. Like you're in the event and everyone's like showing off their gifts. So me, even though making up the gift later on, they still have that grudge against me, Harsh.
Ah, I see, I see. So you should have an emergency gift just for this type of stuff.
I should. I'm gonna take a page out of your book. I'm gonna give them something that I wasn't planning on using ever.
One thing I've been doing lately is I have a business partner, and what we do is that we meet once a month, and this is not related to Life Math Money. So what we do is that we exchange a book every month, and I read the book that she gives me, and she reads the book that I give her. So this ends up with us reading two books extra every single month. It's super useful. Like, so giving books is like a very good strategy if you know the other person is gonna read it.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you're gonna get me a gift, like I would prefer a book. I had this roommate who, like a couple of years back, he never gave me a gift before, and one day out of nowhere, he was like, "Hey, Arman, I bought you a gift for your birthday." And I was like, "Huh? Like this guy never gives me a gift. Like, what's he gonna get me?" And then on my birthday, he gives me this big book, and it was I forgot the name of the book. It was called like Mambo Mentality, the Kobe Bryant one. And bro, I was grateful because this is a book that compounds in time. Like, there's a lot of lessons you can learn from it. I think if someone is confused on what to get another person, if you're dealing with a guy that's into self improvement, books are one of the best gifts to give. And it's cheap. Now you could get a book for like 5, 10 bucks. It's a thought that
Level up
counts.
mentality. Give them a copy.
Get them a copy of Level Up Mentality. And the thing with books, Harsh, is that you can't just give someone a book because you're like, oh, I like it, so you must like it too. You have to somewhat know the person. Like giving someone a book is very similar to making an introduction. It's like if I'm going to make an introduction with someone, I have to somewhat understand what this person is looking for. And once I understand it, then I could create that connection. And if someone wants to understand how to like connect people better, there's a great book called The Power Connector, and I believe the lady's name is I don't know her first name. Her last name is Robinett, Robinett. It's a great book on how to connect people. Like you don't really have to do anything, but you're creating value out of thin air. So it's a very powerful way to show social skills, especially if you're someone who's nervous. Just connect people.
Interesting.
And I'll give you an example. Like I had this one client when I was working with him in 2019. Great guy, but very stiff. Very, he's in his head a lot, right? And after our interactions, like he built the confidence to start a YouTube channel, and he was doing great. This guy, man, like he's in this industry where he could constantly just keep passing referrals, and he just kept passing me one referral after the next. And you better believe that I completely forgot about his social awkwardness immediately once he kept sending me referrals. So with social skills, there's a whole bunch of different ways to provide value. You don't always have to just be like, okay, well, I have to go to a party and tell a bunch of jokes. This is the only way to provide value. You have to play to your strengths and then add on top of that.
There's a book I remember reading many years ago. The book is called One Up on Wall Street. Have you heard of it?
What up on Wall Street? No, I have not.
I forget. Oh, I don't remember the name of the author. I think it's a guy whose name is Peter Lynch.
I heard
And
of
in
Peter
this,
Lynch. Yeah.
yeah, Peter Lynch. So this
Yeah.
guy, he used to be a golf assistant. So his job earlier was to fetch the golf ball after people have played with it. So, for example, if I'm playing golf, I've thrown the ball somewhere far away. I need a guy to go and get it for me.
Hmm.
And he says that, like, at his job, and this really stuck with me, he liked the people who tipped well better than the people who actually played well,
Really?
because he was like a helper, right? So he, from his perspective, like the guy who actually like gives him some money, like who tips well, is like better to him than a guy who plays really well.
Right.
So, and this is not like, he isn't like playing golf here. He's the actual assistant who's receiving the tip.
Mm-hmm.
And that stuck with me in the sense that the man who actually gives tips and like who is somewhat generous with money and things like that is served well, in the sense service staff will treat him better, respect him more, and things of that sort than just status.
Yes.
For example, if you are, say, like the world's best tennis player, okay, and the ball boy, the guy who has to fetch balls, you don't give him any money. He's just like hanging out, and like you don't give him any food or water or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
He will respect you less than some average player who gives him some money and gives him like a meal, buys him like a meal here and there, etc. And I can give you like, I can, like, for example, like, let me give you an example of this from my own experience. I recently went trekking, and the
What does
drive, like,
trekking mean for American listeners? 'Cause that's not a
hiking.
hiking. There we go.
So I recently went hiking, and the way I go hiking is that I will sometimes like book a car, and I'll just have a guy drive there wherever I need. So the driver was telling me that, before I get to that, so typically I will like give the guy money to go buy breakfast, go buy lunch, or if I'm eating like somewhere cheap, I'll like, okay, eat with me, I'll pay for you. And this guy was so helpful for me. Like, he was like, he came on the trek with me just to carry my bag for me.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and he served me quite well. And he told me later that a lot of the people like who hire his car, they don't take care of him at all, right? They'll show up at like 6 a.m. out of the blue and say, okay, we're moving now, like we're going here and there. And the guy's like, okay, it's 6 a.m., you didn't tell me that I had to wake up first.
Okay, so
So
adjust
it's
and
gonna take
everything.
me half an hour to like wake up, take a shit, and be ready. On the other hand, I told him that we're gonna go at this time, so be ready by this time. So he was ready. And other people, like, they would show up at 6 a.m. in the morning, and then they start getting mad at him. Okay, like, why are you delaying us? Like, I'm not delaying you. I have to like take a shower, right?
It's the
So
little details.
yeah, it's a little details. And I think that when you take care of people, especially service staff and people of that sort, or if you give them some money and like you tip them well, I think that you get much better service, much more respect, and it's better for them also, because these guys are like, they're workers, right? So for $5-10 here and there doesn't matter to you at all, but for him, it's like it makes his day.
Yeah, especially if you're in that industry where, tips do make a difference. Because I know a lot of companies, like, they start off with a very, very little pay, and then it's the tips that makes the money justified. Like, uh, there was a small period, Harsh, where, in my freshman year in college, I was doing pizza delivery driving, and the guy is like, "Yeah, yeah, your pay is gonna be $3.95, something like that." I'm thinking, wait a minute, the minimum wage is $7.25. What do you mean you're gonna pay me only like three something bucks? I kid you not, and I have to also pay for gas. And he's just like, "Well, you keep all the tips money," and I didn't really know what he was talking about. I didn't think like tip money was gonna be that high for a pizza guy, dude. Pizza guys can make a lot of money in tips, especially if they somewhat try to create conversation. That's a big thing. But with the delivery driver game, like, you have a smaller chance to like make an impression. Where if you're, let's say you're a driver, let's say you drive for Uber or Lyft or something like that, you can have more of an opportunity to create conversation, to give them some value, and then you could raise the tip more. But I do agree with you where like tips can make a big difference. It could improve likability. But on the flip side, I would also say, like, if a large part of your income is from tips, you got to make sure your attitude is on point. There's some times when I like going to a restaurant, The waiter is all like mopey, like no charm, like no like enthusiasm. But by the time it's for him to get collect that paycheck, he's like, well, here's your paycheck, sir. I hope you had an amazing time." I'm like, where was that enthusiasm like throughout the entire meal? You're all of a sudden all upbeat because you're expecting that tip, and that's not something I vibe with. I think you have to earn your tip.
It's interesting what you say. Firstly, you worked all sorts of weird jobs, man, like delivery driver, working at Mad Over Donuts.
Yeah, dude. I mean, like in college, man, like I
You work
was
at
doing all
Subway
this
also,
stuff.
right?
I worked in Subway, 7-Eleven. I worked as a driver in like Zingo. This was before Lyft and Uber. I worked as a pizza delivery driver. And, I think some people will like laugh at that. But for me, I would say it built work ethic, it built grit.
I'm happy to hear that, man, but my opinion is still the same, where I think this is a waste of a young man's time. I
But,
will
okay, go ahead.
say that, sorry, go ahead. In India, like they don't tip delivery drivers. I've never done that. Like never tip a delivery guy. Like, they're paid fairly. They're paid like $1 or so per delivery,
Hmm.
which is a good, which is very good in India.
Dude, sometimes like you're supposed to tip someone and like you have no clue. Like for me, like 3 weeks ago, I left gum in my front seat of my car. And Florida, it gets hot. I think it was like 98 degrees that day. I come back,
How much is that in normal people's?
what, 98 degrees?
Yeah, in like non-retard metric.
Oh, you're a Celsius guy, aren't you? Let me see. 2 Celsius. 36.67
Okay, cool.
Celsius. So the gum melts. And I'm like, damn, man, like, how am I going to get this gum out? I tried to, watch some YouTube videos and see what happens, but I couldn't do it. So I find a local detail car shop. I go to the guy and he's like, yep, I could take the gum away for you. It'll be $50. So I remember giving him $50 flat. And he's like, he's looking very uncomfortable. And I'm like, well, thank you for your service, man. And then as I'm about to walk away, um, he just like, uh, like his body language was so off where I was like, wait, I've seen that body language before. I've had that body language when I was working as a pizza delivery driver, and, and the person didn't give me any tip. So I luckily had a $5 bill in my wallet, and I give it to him too. I was like, I don't know if you take tip, but here's tip. And he's like, oh yeah, yeah, it's a common practice to give tips to your detail shop person. I was like, all right, well, here you go. But I didn't know that before.
Damn, in America they expect tips for everything. That's crazy. That's crazy. Firstly, $50 to get a piece of gum removed from your seat is also crazy.
For me, it wasn't crazy, man. For some reason, I freaked out. I thought it was gonna cost like $200. So when they said 50, I was like, all good.
I think if you ever live in India for a while, you will realize how much cheaper everything is and how much more expensive everything is in the West.
That's true. Hey, Arch, there's an echo. Can you hear
Okay,
me?
I'm gonna use headphones then. Just a sec.
Okay.
So in India, we don't really tip as much in the sense that most Indians don't tip. Like I'm one of the exceptions. And yeah, so the guy who works at say the restaurant is paid fairly. He isn't expected to receive tips. And in some restaurants, the guy will actually say no to tips. He's not allowed to take tips.
Oh, he's not allowed.
Yeah, in some restaurants, like the guy, like they'll actually have signs that say things like, "Our employees are paid fairly. Please do not give them a tip."
Hmm. Do you guys have valets over there?
Yeah, but valleys are never tipped.
They're never tipped?
No, they're paid a salary. The thing is that I'll tell you why the tip system isn't like universal in India and isn't like thought of as a normal thing. And the thing is that let's say you go to a restaurant, you really enjoy the food, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who are you tipping?
The server,
Who made the food?
the chef.
So why aren't you tipping the chef?
That's a good point.
So that's why it isn't like a normal thing to tip in India because firstly, like you're tipping the wrong guy. He didn't make your food; he just brought it to you.
You're right.
Some places have a tip box where, like, if you give them a tip, the tip goes in the tip box and is like distributed in a ratio between everyone. So, yeah, in India, it's not a common practice. Like, you will never tip a valet guy. You will never tip, a delivery guy. No one does that.
What about drivers? Like, I mean, do you guys have like rickshaws and like?
Yeah, we don't tip them. We pay them like whatever rate, and we don't give them an extra. That's his income, right? Otherwise, it's like, what's the point of having a price if you have to pay more than that?
Hmm. No, I definitely get the logic. Trust me, I get the logic, man. Because some of the times I'm like, "Man, what am I tipping you for? I mean, what did you do?" But uh, also on the other side, like being a guy that has been in the end of a job that has gotten tips. Um, I mean, I'm just of the philosophy like if you're going to get tips, like you have to bring the enthusiasm. Like it should be a pleasant experience. Otherwise, like don't ask for a tip, man, or don't be upset when the person doesn't give you a tip. They don't owe it to you. They only owe you what you give in return. I mean, that's my philosophy, and in some ways, that's a controversial opinion. Some people are going to be like, "Oh, if you don't tip 20%, then you don't even deserve to go out to eat." But that's a very blanket statement because it's like, okay, you're just factoring in the food, but you're not necessarily factoring in the experience. That's why a lot of people get the food in the first place. So it's a pretty common shaming tactic. Um, yeah,
Yeah,
I think you were
I
gonna
don't
say
know about
something.
the person thing though. Like, that sounds weird. Like, why would you tip a percent in the sense that just because you ordered a more expensive dish, the server has an extra work, so he deserves extra money? No,
Have you heard of forced gratuity?
no. Tell me more.
So it's just a fancy way of saying that your tip has already been added. So like one time, one time I go to this restaurant, dude. I spent like $50. Hold on, let me see how much they added for me. 1 second. So yeah, I spent $50. There's still an echo, Harsh.
Oh, there is. That should
Mhm.
not be happening because I'm on headphones right now.
Okay. Okay. If it still persists, I'll just take off my headphones and talk without the headphones. Um. uh, Hello.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. So basically, I spend $50 and I get a ticket for $60. I'm like, what the hell? And then I see that forced gratuity, which is uh, saying that 20% has been added on. So another $10. So some restaurants in the US do that.
Some restaurants in India will also do that. They'll call it a service charge, like
Pretty
10%
fancy
service
word.
charge. Yeah, but at the end of the day, it's like you should just update the menu to reflect it in the sense that if I buy a dish that's going to cost $10 and you're going to put 10% on it, might as well just make the dish say $11.
How many things out there do you think where it's a very dark, sinister thing, but some people in power just put some fancy words on it to not make you ask any questions?
Oh yeah, a lot of stuff is like that. For example, anti-terrorist stuff where to violate any privacy of any citizen, they just use like, we're trying to protect you from terrorists, or we're trying to protect children from pedophiles. So I think because a lot of the logic they use for collecting information and illegally tapping phones, and like sense, what is the word, monitoring every internet traffic and saving it in a database and creating databases of whatever sites you visit, etc. The
Hmm.
logic is that it's to protect you from terrorists, as if them seeing my browser history is going to protect me from a terrorist. But yeah, I think the government uses terrorism and you know pedophilia as like a front to do whatever they want at the cost of your privacy, and usually it's just them wanting to like collect more data for whatever reason.
Hmm.
And this is like a publicly accepted like answer they can give you, like it's to save you from terrorists.
Yeah, we're
all i
looking
can
out for
say
you.
all I can say is that if they really cared about pedophilia, where are all the where is it where is Epstein's client list.
Hmm.
How come no one has been arrested for Epstein's child sex ring? How come not a single person has been arrested? Not one. So the government doesn't care about pedophilia. A lot of them are likely involved in this racket.
What's
So
up with like all these people in power somehow being involved in pedophilia? It's the
I have
same thing that
no idea.
happens. It's the same thing that happens in Hollywood. I'm like,
And the church, right? The Christian religion.
yeah, in Christian religion too. I mean, why though? Like, what the heck?
I don't know. It's insane though.
Yeah, I mean, because like if it happens in one space, you're like, okay, well, these guys are weird. Then it's happening in like two to three different spaces. Now you're like, wait, what? Like, what kind of pattern is going on? And this is a pattern I don't even know if I want to observe because it's so freaking spooky.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I don't get it either. I think it's a more Western thing. It's not as common in India,
Hmm.
but or even China. It's
Do you
not
guys
super
have
common.
like a legal age? Because in the US it's very strict, like it's 18 in like most places. Um, but
Isn't it
overseas, I heard
16 in like many places in the US? According to Wikipedia, I think that it's 16. In India, it's 18.
okay, 16. I haven't heard of 16 unless I'm not aware of something.
Okay, I don't know. In India, it's 18. In most places in the world, it's 16, except in like
16?
Japan, where it's like 12 or something.
Oh, damn, dude. I don't know who
I
makes these
would,
rules, but I think 18 is like good.
I don't know. I think 18 is a bit high in the sense that historically, like humans married about 15 to 16 of age. In the sense, my grandma got married at 16. Was my grandfather a pedophile? No, it's just what people did back then and across history for millennia. Women and men would get married at 16. Like the Lord Ram was married at 16 years of age in the
Hmm.
Ramayana, in the Valmiki Ramayana, and Sita was even younger. So if God is getting married at 16, what are you implying with 18? I think it's just a bunch of lawyers who made up that number, and we all have to follow it.
Man-made. Was your grandpa a lot older than your grandma?
He was 24.
Okay. Yeah, see, I can't really offer an opinion on that because I mean, like, that's like a different generation. I guess different cultural norms and everything.
Different cultural norms, yes. What I'm saying is that biologically, you are ready to produce children, and like as a man, at after puberty, which is about 16, 17 years of age,
Hmm.
or I think for men it's a bit later. You could even say 16 to 18, depending on like how your body matures. And for women, it's about 16ish, 15, 16. And yeah, I'm not saying that women should be married at that age. What I'm saying is that it shouldn't be illegal if someone does want to get married, if their body is ready. Why does the government stop them? Like this is against people's free right to decide what they want to do. So yeah, I think the age should be 16 because 18 is it's just making people wait for no reason. And you also create situations where, for example, let's say that a guy is 18 years old or 18 years 1 day old and the girl is 17 years 364 days old, and them having sex is now a crime. In the sense that if, let's say, the guy was dating the girl from like 17 years old, right? They were both 17 and that was legal. But now the guy crossed the age of 18 and the girl didn't because the birthdays are not the same. And suddenly the guy is a rapist, like a statutory rapist. So
Bro, if you get caught for that kind of stuff in US, like your life's pretty much ruined. I mean,
exactly, which doesn't make sense, right? Just because one partner is 17 and the other is 18 doesn't make it rape.
yeah, and the thing is, even people in prison, like that's the crime that they look down on. Where let's say, like in prison, there are people that like killed people, like robbed people, kidnap people, and they're looking down on pedophilia. There was this spooky ass YouTube video that I saw recently, where this guy is confessing to strangling his pedophile roommate or his jailmate, and he's detailing out everything. And I was reading the comments and someone was like, "Well, at least he's honest because he's like he, the detective is not trying to like get any information out of him. He just sharing everything, and he's basically breaking down the code of conduct, even in prisons. And I'm like, man, like if you get ever like uh, convicted for something like that, like your life really is ruined. I especially, we talked about like the show How to Catch a Predator. Like you understand the concept of it,
Mhm. Yeah.
dude. One of the guys, like, and there's a YouTube channel that came up, I think in like 2018, that was talking about a life for these predators after being caught on the show. And one of the guys ended up starting this big technology company, and he's the CEO, and he's a musician, and he got um he has a LinkedIn too. And I was like, whoa, man. So at least he's trying to like, rebuild his life after that moment. But there are like these YouTube channels that are still discussing that moment from 2005. So it's like he could run, but it's difficult to hide from it.
Yeah, it kind of catches on to you, and this is one of those things where your reputation is really ruined. But if you ask me, like for my honest opinion, I think that the legal age should be 16. I think that it's historically it was always younger than 18. 18 was never like this is something. 18 was not. It isn't like a. It isn't suited to our biology, I would say, because kids are having sex at 16. So what is the point of making the legal age 18? Like if you go out in the world, children today are having sex at 16. And what you're doing is essentially creating like this weird situation where one partner becomes like potentially criminal for life for no reason except that his birthday was earlier.
Well, one thing I think is like with the laws, like don't quote me on this. I think they're not. I mean, you brought up a good point where you're like 16 and like let's say 18 or 17 and like 360 days and like 18 and 2 days, like that's considered a crime. I don't know if the lawmakers were focused more on that versus like a 16-year-old being allowed to marry like a 45-year-old. Do you think that's weird?
What is the difference between a 16-year-old marrying a 45-year-old and an 18-year-old marrying a 45-year-old? They're both weird, and
I
one
don't
is
know, man.
legal and the one is not. So the law clearly isn't tackling people marrying, say, a much younger girl or a girl marrying a much older boy.
But you don't
Because
get
if
like
that
a
was the
queasy feeling in your stomach, like a 45-year-old trying to marry a
Yeah, that's
16-year-old?
weird. That's weird. But this law isn't tackling that. Like if you were talking about a law that said that the difference between a man and a woman can't be more than say 10 years, that would be a different thing, okay? But we're talking about the legal age of, having sex being 18. And this creates a lot of unnecessary problems for people who are around that age because one person is like a slightly older and one person is slightly younger. I think a good compromise could somewhere be that if these two people, if they're say only 2 years apart or 2 years or like let's say 2 years, if the girl is 17 and the guy is 19, that shouldn't be illegal. But if the girl is 17 and the guy is 40, then that should be illegal. So we could
Hmm.
have like a 2 to 4 year period where it isn't considered a crime, just to get rid of all these, you know, technically statutory rape cases which are not really rape.
I see where you're coming from.
Yeah,
So
but
in
yeah, it's
yeah,
the age of 18 is something that just a bunch of people made up. It has no relevance to our biology.
man, I wonder how many people like. I mean, are there people that got caught for crimes that you think like in prison because of like that, like those few days difference?
If you, Arman, you are 19 years old and you have sex with a 17 years old, you will go to prison for sure because legally you are a rapist. Because under the law, someone who is younger than 18 can't consent.
Out of
And
curiosity, like say someone gets uh, indicted for that stuff and they get out of prison in India, are they forced to like register as a sex offender in the community that they're moving into?
I don't think this concept exists in India of registering as a sex offender.
Dude, that's a concept in the US. I remember there was this when I was a little kid, man. I had like this poster on my door when I walked in from school, and they said like, um, House 1745. There's a convicted like child molester who lives there. They had his face and everything, and I don't know, man. It was like such a gruesome looking picture that it just spooked me out. I'd be like sleeping at night, and I like, oh no, I heard something out my window. It must be that guy.
What are your thoughts on that?
Thoughts on what? Like him having to register?
Yeah, this entire system of registering, because I've heard that in the US, like if you get caught, say, peeing on the street or something, you also have to register as a sex offender.
See, I don't know if I could give that opinion right now because I didn't even know what you just said. Like peeing on the streets, or I maybe I may have done that once or twice. Um, I know a lot of people that did that, but like if um, I don't even know, man. Like it depends on the crime. Like if you peed on the streets and like there's no one around you and like there's no bathroom around the area, then I don't know how that is in the same context as you luring an underage girl to inside sex from her. So I don't know if I understand the laws enough. But if you're convicted for that crime, then yeah, I mean you're gonna have to register for some time. Like I don't see anything um wrong with that particular law, especially like if you live in a family community. I mean, like as a parent, I'm sure you'd want to know.
But don't you feel like a lot of these people will never be able to move on if these lists exist?
Is the list permanent? I heard like
I don't
it'll
know. I
last
don't
for like
know.
10, 15 years or something like that.
That's a long
Sometimes
time. That's a long time.
yeah, sometimes it's permanent. Like there were like some of these How to Catch a Predator episodes where these people have to register for life.
I would say, like, for like like if someone is actually raping kids, then probably best that they have to register for life. But I can also make the argument that by shaming them forever, you create a situation where this person can't move on, and you might as well shoot them and be done with it, right? Like, what's the point? Like, if you're gonna like, if you want to do that, like if you want like actual revenge, then just shoot them. But if you're gonna keep them alive and they've served their sentence, then I don't see the point of like humiliating them forever, because people change over time, and sometimes
Mhm.
people just make a mistake. Let's say someone was drunk or whatever. And I'm not saying that justifies it, but I do think that shaming them forever, putting out posters, etc., hinders their process of recovery, especially after they've been in jail for whatever years they had to go in jail for. It just, I'm not convinced it is beneficial for society.
Yeah, I mean, I completely get what you're trying to say because I mean, people can change and people can. It's difficult to move forward if the past keeps getting brought up. But in another context, I also see like people who make the laws. They're probably like, well, it's not really for shaming. It's just for precautions. Let's say someone got guilty of that. Let's say they were like 35. They lured a 5-year old with candy. Did what like did some sinister stuff. Now they're out. Even if I'm a parent and I know you've changed and everything, like I still want to know, like if someone like that lives in, because God forbid if they do it again, like now the argument is like, well, how come we weren't aware that someone like that lived in the neighborhood? So I think the people who make the laws harsh, I don't think they're doing it with the intention of shaming. I think they're doing it with the intention of informing. And unfortunately, shaming also happens as a byproduct. I don't know if that's the main intention.
What is the recurrence rate for these crimes, in the sense that if someone is convicted and they serve the sentence, what percentage of these people commit the crime again?
I
That
have
would, I
no
think,
clue about
be
that.
that would be like a deciding factor in whether these informations are good or not. In the sense that if a lot of them like go out and rape kids again, then it's for the best that there's a list and everyone knows that this is the guy who was convicted before.
Mhm.
But if it is not a thing where someone who served 15 years in jail will repeat the crime, then this is just shaming. Like, this isn't adding any value, right? He's not going to do it again. So it depends on the recurrence rate of the crime. What do you feel about a law that says something like this? Okay, anyone who's been in a car accident that he caused has to have a sign on his car saying that I have caused a car accident in the past, just to inform everyone. And anytime he drives a car, that sign has to be there.
Depends on the complexity, like
No,
drunk
let's say that
driving or
drunk driving or whatever reason, texting while driving, whatever. But if they had an accident,
Mhm.
they need to have a sign on their car saying that I caused the car accident. prominently displayed on their car, or some kind of like identification mark that shows that this person has caused an accident in the past. What would you feel about a law like that?
I don't know if I feel anyway. I don't know if I feel like I don't know if it's n- I don't know if it's going to do much shaming because like you're gonna be in a car anyways, so people aren't really seeing your face. But I see the point you're trying to make. You're basically saying like this guy did his bad duty back in the days, and now he's constantly being reminded of it. Mm, there's a lot of complexity in that. Like, is it drunk driving? Was it accidental? Was it texting? I mean, I wouldn't be against it, but I don't see a reason for it. But like something like luring someone like underage for a crime like that, there's much more complexity, and I think it shows much more bad intent. Or like a guy
Agree.
that the guy that's like texting and driving, any a lot of people do that. I don't think this person's like I want to like
Yeah,
kill
get
this
someone to
person. That
that.
so I think intent plays a big role.
I think
Um,
this is good for it, right? Premeditated.
yeah, it's like premeditated, and so yeah, intent plays a big role in all of this. This is a field that I've been very, very curious with, like just law in general. Um, I had this really good friend who was going to law school not too far away from where I live, and he had this one like most lawyers, they have this thing called a mock trial, and it's like a end of the semester sort of thing that they're preparing the entire semester for. So he hits me up. He's like, "Hey, do you want to come to my mock trial?" I was like, "Hell yeah, man! I want to see you represent your, your defendants or whatever you guys do." So I go there, and they're given like this case where apparently a car hit this other person, and they're interviewing all the witnesses, and I'm seeing how the law game works. Like they're using a lot of these terminologies, but a lot of it is behind intent. Like they're trying to see if like the witness is reliable, the witness is not reliable. Uh, the law game, man, it's very interesting. Like, have you ever been interested in that sort of stuff, like criminal justice, law, the court system?
Not particularly. Not particularly.
Man, when I was there, like the guy that invited me there, dude, he was drunk. And this is
What?
yeah, dude, this is one of my friends that um like I knew him in freshman year. Like he was one of the guys that like, pulled me out of my shell, introduced me to a lot of people. So I always had a soft spot for him. But when he invited me to the courtroom and I heard him somewhat yelling, everyone around, they were like, "Oh yeah, he's just passionate." I was like, "Nah." Like I hear that voice. He's been drinking. So after the courtroom, the mock trial,
Mhm.
I smell his breath and it's strong, dude. I was like, damn, bro, you've been drinking, huh? And he's like, shh, no one else can tell. And that's when I saw like a peek into alcoholism. Like this guy really needed alcohol for a lot of basic tasks. Like for the mock trial, like I get it, it's high pressure, but he told me that like he would even drink at his work. He had a very stressful job where he had to basically call old people and let them know that they don't qualify for their insurance plan. So a bunch of old people, like later in their lives, they're fearing for their health, are basically cursing this alcoholic friend of mine out nonstop. That's his job. So he was like justifying why he drinks alcohol at work, but it just kept mounting up. He's like, "Well, I drink alcohol at work because people are abusive to me. You got to understand where I'm coming from. Oh, well, I drink alcohol at the mock trial because it's high pressure situation. You got to understand where I'm coming from." And it's just these little excuses that just keep bubbling up. And now he's so entrenched in where if he doesn't drink for a couple of hours, like his body starts shaking.
Damn, that's an actual addiction,
Hmm.
That's crazy. I feel bad for this guy. I hope he recovers.
Yeah, man. I mean, and the thing is, because I never understood like the physiological parts of addictions until I saw this guy like not trying to drink, and it's a nervous system kind of thing where like your brain is expecting it, and when you don't give it that, it starts to it starts to cause you a lot of physiological and psychological pain. He was talking about nightmares and all of that stuff. I'm like, damn, dude, like that's pretty tough.
He needs a doctor or a professional to help him.
Yeah, I think they have a thing called AA, like Alcohol Anonymous or something. Like, do you guys have that? Is alcoholism a problem in India?
It is a big problem, yes,
It is.
especially in villages. It's a big problem. They don't drink the more expensive alcohol, of course, but they drink something called tara.
Mm-hmm.
Have you heard of it?
No.
So tara is it's like a homemade alcohol that they like make in the fields, and it's very impure. And occasionally, people will die because it wasn't made correctly. They'll get poisoned.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, a lot of people drink alcohol in India, and it's a big, big problem. A lot of villages have been ruined because of alcohol. And in fact, I know a lot of like, you know, servants whose husbands have died because of alcohol poisoning. I think you muted yourself. So on your screen, can you press unmute? On your screen, on the bottom. Oh yeah,
Can you hear me?
yes.
Yeah, I accidentally pulled the wire, loosened
Don't
up.
worry, don't worry.
Um,
So what I was saying was, I've had servants whose husband died of alcohol poisoning. Like they would drink this tara thing. It wasn't made properly, and this guy would like start like vomiting blood and then die.
oof, that's terrifying, man.
Yeah, but apparently they drink it because it's like very cheap,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like 80% alcohol or something.
And it gets you drunk pretty quick.
80% alcohol. Yeah, I bet.
Yeah, and you said that they're doing a lot of repetitive work, which the alcohol like helps make it fly by, make time fly
Yeah, like
by.
construction work and things like that. Yeah.
There was another situation, Harsh, where it's like these three brothers that I know, very cool guys. Like when they're sober, they go out of their way to help you. Like they'll give you rides anywhere you need. They'll never charge you gas money. They'll buy you food. Very pure-hearted, great guys. But when they're drunk, dude, all three of the brothers, they're so freaking aggressive. Like they'll try to fight with police officers. They'll fight with the people that they came with, and it's like completely different, man. And I'm just like, man, like, what did all three of you brothers go through? Where like, even when you guys are separate, like, if you guys, if you guys are drinking, like, you guys
For
are,
the repressed emotions.
dude, I don't know, like, because the thing with alcohol is that it doesn't really make you do stuff that you would never do. It actually makes it easier to do stuff that you always wanted to do. And I'm like, there's a lot of aggression that's there. And it's like when the alcohol is drunk, it's just like the mask comes off and they're like furious. But then I'm thinking, is that the real self, or are the kind-hearted like three brothers that I know the real self? Like which one is real? It's like night and day difference, Harsh. And it's
Interesting.
and it's the alcohol, man, where it's like it's something that spooks me out because I'm just like, dang, dude, like um you never know like what can happen when you're drinking outside. Because one time I was out with these three brothers and they were literally right in front of a cop's face, like this close, and they were yelling at the top of their lungs. And luckily, like the police officer was a great guy, and they're looking at me. They're like, "Hey, man, you're the sober one. Like, you take your friends away." So I'm trying to like grab these three like
Idiots.
furious brothers. The cops like, listen, man, if you don't get them out of my face right now, I'm literally gonna arrest them. And I was just like, you guys, come with me, man. And it's like you trying to persuade a drunk, angry guy will truly show your inner salesman. Like you're gonna have to take angles that you were never expecting. Uh, Luckily, like other people that I was with eventually came, and we were all responsible for one brother. We were able to like remove them. But dude, like you never know like when someone drinks like who they will turn into.
Man, that is insane. Attacking a police officer is really, really dumb.
Well, he didn't hit the police officer. He was like this close to him, like for those of you listening, like 2 inches away, and he's yelling at the top of his lungs. I see spit coming out, and I'm like,
Oh, like what those like protesters do to like, the police, right?
yeah, and I'm like to the like the police officer was such a
Nice.
kind dude, man. Like this big, a teddy bear looking man, and I'm like, after we got them away, I just like mapped it out. I was like, yo, I appreciate that, man, and we just left. Um, This isn't the case for everyone though. Like some people, like when they drink, they're very, very nice, like super nice, super chill. So it's like you never know what to expect from people.
You know, one thing you should always keep in mind is that someone who drinks alcohol but can't handle himself when they're drunk, and someone who does drugs at all, you can never rely on this type of person ever for anything, because you just don't know what state they will be in when you have to have them do something difficult or urgent or something serious. So never ever rely on someone who drinks a lot or someone who does any type of drug. You can never trust an alcoholic and a drug addict. Never.
And have you been watching Breaking Bad?
What?
No, in Breaking Bad, Walter White, like the chemistry teacher who sells meth, he partners with his one of his former students named Jesse. And later on in the series, Walter White meets this great businessman who owns a fast food company, but sells drugs, distributes drugs under the scenes. And his name is, I think, is Gus. Gus comes to Walter White and he's like, "You need to drop your partner Jesse." Walter White's like, "Why?" He's like, "Because Jesse's a druggie, and you can never trust a druggie. And you when you need them, they're going to let you down." And then in like the next episode, Jesse was over like taking a lot of the product meth. So yeah, I see where you're coming from. I wouldn't say like what about if someone casually drinks? Like do you think like they're not even trustworthy or like someone who has a problem?
So I think this is a quote from Chanakya. I'm not sure if this was also repeated in Breaking Bad, but this is a Chanakya quote from one of his sutras. Regarding casual drinking, yeah, I think that's fine. But, people who get drunk regularly and need alcohol and can't handle alcohol well, in the sense that you give them alcohol and they start like saying weird shit and they can't hold their tongue or monitor their actions, definitely don't, you can't rely on them at all. Regarding casual drinking, yeah, I would say you don't have to worry too much about it.
Hmm.
But
Like
that said, it depends on, like, if you're handling like something very sensitive, I would not give it to anyone who drinks, because in the right situation you can always get someone who drinks casually to drink a lot.
mm, someone who drinks cat. Okay, I see what you're saying.
Let's say that someone gives you their Bitcoin seed phrase for whatever reason, and I want it out of you. I could hire like the hottest chick, some hot hooker to get you drunk and get it out of you. Like, maybe not you, but there are many people who will crack given the
Hmm.
right woman and enough alcohol from that woman.
Man, I saw this quote. It was a remix to what you're saying with alcohol, but it was towards women. It's like never trust a guy who starts subtly insulting you when a woman walks into the door,
Ah, that's a good
or
one.
or he subtly starts becoming a comedian out of nowhere at your expense.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. A lot of simpy guys pedestalize women so much that from their perspective, they have to win the woman, and to win the woman, they have to like beat you at it, and that's why they behave this way. So never rely. Like, you can't trust those guys. In fact, I think those are the worst, the lowest of the low guys. And interestingly, women recognize that as well.
Hmm.
Like, they know.
Yeah, they know, man. There was this iconic interview where Damon Dash, he went on Breakfast Club, and he was basically talking about like you can never trust those guys because they will backstab you at any moment. If a guy is like constantly talking you down in front of another woman, like it doesn't matter what kind of skills they have, what kind of network they have, like you can never fully rely on this person. Are there certain red flags? I mean, we already brought up two with you. That like you're like, oh, I don't know if I could work with that person. You brought up someone who is heavy on the drinking or even somewhat casual, and someone who badmouths you or other guys in front of women. Is there any other red flags that you have in terms of working with someone?
I'll be back in a minute, Arman. I just need to use the washroom. In the meantime, why don't you tell the audience yours?
Okay, so for me, um, one I would say is work ethic. Like these are the groups of people that are very, very consistent for certain pockets of time, but out of nowhere they'll just stop. They'll just disappear, and they're very inconsistent with their craft. Um, and this also ties into the next point where they're somewhat moody. I, I've talked about it before, uh, in regards to the definition of professionalism. And I think someone is a true professional when I cannot tell their emotional state at all by the work that they're doing. So if I'm over here and me and Harsh are having a podcast and some of the viewers are like, oh man, like these two must be having a long day. That means our emotional state is seeping into the activity that we should be putting our full effort in. So I would say someone who cannot control their emotions typically will be inconsistent. So it's two of the same things, but two ways of looking at the same things. Um, I would say that's the biggest one. I mean, I think from work ethic, a lot of the other stuff are derivatives. Um, the the like if there's someone who likes to do their own thing at their own time, like if I don't have a big problem, like if you're a casual drinker, if you like to smoke cigarettes, hookah, weed at your own private time, I mean, I don't have a big problem with that. That's something that maybe Harsh and I disagree on, but I'm pretty sure with the moodiness thing, like that's not something that I like. I should be able to rely on you. You back, Harsh, or no? Never mind. Um, Now with that being said, I mean,
I'm
let's.
back now, but go ahead.
Okay, well, what I said was like being a professional. Like you're not a professional in my standards. If I could tell your emotional state based off how you're performing, so I want you to be a professional. If I see you getting moody out of the blue moon, you're typically a red flag of someone I don't want to work with.
One red flag that I have for guys is that you should definitely avoid working with people who are social climbers. Where they're always trying to suck up to the right guy, always trying to flatter you to get you to like them. And yeah, you can't trust them because they're just not trustworthy. Like they're like a mirror. It, they're like a flawed mirror where they just reflect what you want to look like. So if the guy feels like you want to look a certain way, he like try to like, keep saying that thing so that you like him more. And he's friends with every single person in the room, etc., and tries to suck up to everyone. And that's a guy like I don't think anyone should trust.
A nice guy.
Not a nice guy, like a very clever guy, but has zero sense of loyalty.
Hmm.
That's a huge red flag. Simping
Yeah.
is a red flag for sure, but it depends on what profession you're in the sense that a lot of people who are simps are also like super loyal. They just aren't good with women, and that's why they are that way.
Hmm.
Then the biggest red flag, or like I wouldn't call it a red flag, but doesn't meet the standard. I would say is someone who isn't competent. Like if someone isn't competent, like there is no point in working with this person because the biggest requirement of whether I should or should not work with someone or should or should not hire someone is not anything else. Like it's not like how much you can squat, it's not how cool are you with women or whatever else. The biggest requirement is are you competent or not, and if you're not competent, we're done.
What if they're ambitious, but they're not competent yet?
That's fine. Like we can train you, we can
You
teach
can,
you, we
okay.
can make you better. But if someone isn't capable of being competent, there is no
I heard,
point in working
I,
with them.
I heard this really great quote by the CEO of Papa John's. He's like, "Hire for attitude, train for aptitude." I like that a lot. Where
Interesting. How's Papa John's? I've never tried it.
Papa John's, better ingredients, better pizza, Papa John's. I actually just got done reading his autobiography recently, and um, he's a very, very good entrepreneurial mind. And it's very unfortunate to see what happened with him. Like he was taken out of context, and like he was pretty much backstabbed by the same people that he helped raise in the company. But if you read the book, I mean, his whole motto was he needs to use the best ingredients for a Papa John's pizza. And there's a lot of lessons, Harsh, in how to run a business. Like he talks about the importance of focus, uh, the importance of being consistent, the importance of um, always tinkering. Like you shouldn't ever think like, okay, well, I have it all figured out. You should always be tinkering and try to see if you could improve just a little bit, and a little bit of improvements can lead to a huge output. But the pizza, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, man. Like Papa John's, like whenever I'm with my friends, never like, yo, guys, let's order some Papa John's. Like I'll say like Pizza Hut or something, but I don't know. I mean, like the Papa John's fans are hardcore loyalists, so I guess they're doing something right.
I don't know. I've never had Papa John's. I've heard about it, but never tried it. It isn't super common in India to spot a Papa John's. I've only seen it once or twice, I think. I do
Domino's
want
is
to
king
give it
there,
a
right?
try.
Domino's is
Domino's and
king.
Pizza Hut, yeah. But
Okay.
mostly Domino's, yeah. In India, pizza is the best pizzas are not from Domino's or Pizza Hut. They're from these like local pizza chains which try to mimic these bigger ones.
Hmm.
I have this weird taste thing going on with pizza where anytime I go to like a gourmet restaurant, to an expensive place and order pizza, it sucks. I never like expensive pizza, and this isn't like me being mad at the price or something. They just aren't good. Like I
Same.
went to like I went to this gourmet pizza place, and the pizzas were expensive, and they were putting in like they were making it special and authentic. I don't know. The crust was thin, and they were putting garlic and everything on the pizza, and like there's garlic on the pizza. I mean, that's not what I wasn't expecting that, so I don't like it. I like regular pizza with things like paneer and chili and everything on it.
Yeah, like I don't want you getting cute with my pizza. I want you to keep it simple and to the point. Like bro, I don't like I'm not someone that likes fancy stuff too much. Like fancy food, I don't I would be perfectly fine eating the same stuff every day as long as you don't get cute with it, bro. Like I really dislike it when I go to like these fancy stuff. They give you like a little bit of stuff and they'll charge you like $75 for it. I'm like, what the hell? Like I don't want that.
Yeah, it's crazy. I was out with a friend recently, and we
Mhm.
went to this gourmet place. It was like a great place, and the food was like okay. Like the food, they had like the portions were not that big, but they were using all these like different ingredients, organic XYZ. And when you actually eat it, it just tastes average. Okay,
Right.
so we get out of there, and I remember we had this pizza there. Okay, we had like it was supposed to have five different types of cheese, and that's maybe one of the only pizzas I just thrown away. I had like a bite, and I'm
You
like,
threw
okay,
it
I'm not gonna
away.
eat this. Yeah, I'm not gonna eat this.
Right.
It was supposed to have like five different types of cheese and everything, but it tasted like crap. So gourmet pizza just doesn't work. After that, we went with the same friend of mine. I went to Pizza Hut. It was right next to the place,
Yeah.
and we had the garlic bread, and that was like the best part of the day.
Straight to the point. That's what we need, man.
Yeah, man. It's so I totally get you when you say that you don't have a fancy taste. Me
Mhm.
neither.
Like I know a guy, man, that is like we used to be like really good friends. And we're still cool. There was like no falling out or anything. But we were so different in terms of the food that we wanted to get. Like, I'm trying to, just get the basics. I'm like, let me go to Taco Bell. He's like, Taco Bell? Don't you understand that their meat is blah 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 blah? I'm like, where do you want to go? He's like, let's go to, and he picks up this fancy taco place. They give you three of these tiny little tacos for $17.99. I eat it. They want tip. I'm still hungry. I'm like, dude, I'm not gonna eat out with you again, man. I like to call him the fancy boy, and I don't know, man. Uh, like I like to keep food very simple. Like I don't like too much of the complexity with that.
Man, on your recommendation, I actually went to Taco Bell recently just to try it out. It wasn't half bad.
Wait, this was your first time trying Taco Bell?
Yeah, my first time. I had something called a paneer chalupa, if you've heard of it.
I heard a chalupa. I never had the paneer style before.
So I had the
Interesting.
paneer chalupa and it was weird. It was fried. It tasted good, but the entire thing was fried. And I was like, ah.
There's this video where it, like tribesmen, people that
Mhm.
are like to themselves, like excluded from most of society, live in small areas. They're trying American food for the first time. So I saw the video where they're trying cheesecake for the first time, and it was one of the funniest videos because especially if you're looking at the comments, everyone's like, "This video made me smile," and I was like, as I was watching the video, I was smiling too because they were eating cheesecake for the first time, and their eyes were glowing. They're like, "Bah, so good." Um, I was dying, bro. I was like, "Man, I'm over here taking cheesecake for granted, and there's a side of the world that's never had it before."
Hey, I recently had cheesecake for the first time. Did not like it.
You don't like cheesecake?
It's not bad, but it isn't great either. Like regular cake is much better.
Ugh.
Like it's too thick and has this like weird consistency to it in the sense that it's not soft and it's not that sweet. So how is it a cake?
And you're overthinking this one, man. I sent you the link, by the way. For anyone who's curious about the video I'm talking about, the title is called "Tribal People Discovering Cheesecake Will Make You Grin for Hours." And I guess the whole channel is dedicated to this because it's called "Tribal People Try."
Interesting.
Tribal people drink clean water for the first time.
Hey, come on,
Tribal
that's just disrespectful to tribal people. Okay, like they can boil water, right, and clean the water.
teasing them. Tribal people tried strawberry cheesecake for the first time. Harsh. Tribal people try Pizza Hut.
Oh, I don't think they will like Pizza Hut if they try it for the first time. Like, pizza has an acquired taste. Like kids don't like it. Like very young kids.
And what kind of kids
Like
you hanging out with, man?
I don't know. So
I used to love Pizza Hut as a kid.
as a kid, like when you were like, say my family, like some of my family, like the kids, I
Hmm.
took them out to get pizza and they hated it. They threw it away. They didn't eat it. And even some of my older cousin brothers who had pizza for the first time, they found it to be bad. And this was Domino's pizza.
Mm.
So they didn't eat it. And I was the only one eating pizza. So that's when I realized that to like pizza, you have to like grow up eating pizza.
That's true. Because some people like they're overwhelmed by the taste. It's like that much cheese in this little slice. Um, I get it. Have you ever been to Hawaii before?
I have not. I've heard they put pineapple on their pizza though.
Yeah, and I was gonna say like they put pineapple in a lot of things. Like I went to an IHOP there, and they had like this pineapple burger, and I was like, I don't know if I should eat it. I was like, but how often are you in Hawaii? Let me try it out. And I don't know, I don't like the very sweet stuff. Um, Hawaii was fun though, man. Like if you are ever curious, you should definitely check it out.
Interesting. I've had pineapple on pizza once. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't like super great either. I don't really get why the internet is so divided about it.
It's polarizing.
Weird things are polarizing. But yeah,
Yeah,
do you always eat pizza with with your hands, or do you sometimes use a fork and a spoon?
I always eat it with my hands. I don't think I've ever eaten it with a fork and a spoon, unless it's one of those Chicago uh, pizzas, deep dish pizzas, which are really thick. Have you
Yeah,
seen that
that's a
before?
type. Yeah. That's a type I will have a fork and a spoon with, and I would get shit about it from my friends.
I
Like,
don't like
why
those
you?
pizzas.
They're good. What are you on about?
No, I like the thin ones, man. I don't like the big deep dish. I don't like the pizza with too much sauce. Like I like more cheese.
See, I think we grew up in different environments, okay? Because I didn't have that much money as a kid. So for me, it
Mhm.
was like more pizza for the same money.
Actually, I see exactly what you're like where you're coming from. I mean, I guess a lot of these stuff, like your economic, your background, plays a role on your taste buds. Would you say that's the case?
I would agree with that. Like for me, like you know what? Have you had like the cheap chocobar ice cream, the one that costs like 10 rupees? It's like it's like vanilla inside with a lot of sugar and like a layer of chocolate on the top.
Yeah, I've had that before.
So recently, I was having this ice cream. It's called Magnum, and it's like a high-end version of a chocobar. And they have done like a lot of stuff with the ice cream where they've infused coconut in the vanilla and everything. And while I was eating that, I felt like firstly I paid like 12 times of the regular chocobar, and this sucks.
Oh, it sucked.
It wasn't bad. Like it was like just too high end for me in the sense that I was expecting it to be sweet and sugary. Right? It was a cheat day.
Yeah,
And what I got was this weird coconut flavor thing, and I was like,
they got cute with it. Harsh, I literally just Googled Magnum ice cream, and have you ever seen it when it comes in the cartons?
no, I haven't seen it in a carton.
Okay, well, one time I was like going to order Uber Eats because I was doing a cheat day, and normally I get like the Ben and Jerry's, the regular one for guys like me. But today I'm like, let me get fancy. Let me get the Magnum one in the carton, dude.
Hmm.
I get it, and I can't open it, and I'm like, wait a minute, man. I'm a pretty strong guy. I should be able to open this. Hard. I could not freaking open it, and I turned it upside down, and these idiot manufacturers like connected it in a certain way where you got to get like cute with it. So I'm like trying to turn it and my fingers keep sliding off. I get a I get a towel and then harsh, I Google it and there are tons of people Googling how the hell do I open this? Uh, So it's not just me.
Use a knife, like just put a hole.
Bro, what I had to do was like I had to put it upside down. I got a knife and I was like poking through it, like the bottom edge of it. And then finally, at like 15 to 20 minutes in, I'm sweating. Finally, I got it off. And I'm like, so I basically paid almost double the price to give myself another damn workout. Like, I'm back to Ben and Jerry's, man. I really wish a lot of these fancy companies kept the customers number one. And, like this, if you kept the customer number one, that is a problem that should never happen, where multiple people are complaining that it's difficult to open. Get that taken care of, man. And this is ice cream. Like time is money, man. Like it's melting.
Yeah, that's weird. I didn't know that. I didn't know that. I didn't know that you get ice cream in cartons.
Yeah, and here, like, just check out this link. I don't
Okay,
really eat
send it.
pops. Yeah, you need a. Does that link open for you?
Yeah, but I don't see a carton. I see like the bar.
Try this. What about this link?
Oh, like a cup. Okay, okay, I see, I see.
Yeah, a cup, I guess.
You need like a can opener or something for this. Like, have you seen those tin can openers?
Yeah, I trust me, man. I tried that. It didn't work either. I literally had to come with a knife, and it's wet and it's getting wetter because it's a
Condensation, yeah.
condensation. And dude, I almost stabbed my finger. Like I have such a negative perception of this Magnum. Like anytime I see it now, I'm like, nah, I'm not. I don't mess with that. And people will be like, "Don't you understand? Like it's high quality. It's premium stuff." I'm like, bro, I don't care, man. Like, give me some good old Ben and Jerry's, and we're good to go.
It doesn't taste as good though. At least not to me. Like it's too premium for my taste.
I wonder how many people like convince themselves like something tastes better because they just paid more for it.
It works. Like there's the what do you call it? The placebo effect to it,
Hmm.
where if you pay more, you feel it's higher quality.
Yeah.
Especially with clothes, where like I could sell you a bunch of my old used jeans which are torn, and you'll be like, "This is like it's a used jeans. It's torn. It's going to be like $1."
Hmm.
And if like Levi's or someone says it's used torn jeans, it's going to be like 50 or $100.
That's true.
So yeah, there is some effect of branding, and what you pay is the value of the product type of stuff going on.
See, you could get away with that with clothes, but like, and you could even get away with that with food. But I think guys like me and you, we're like so simple and to the point where we're like, you can't fool us. You can try, but you're not gonna succeed, man. It's either good or it sucks.
Yeah, I would say that all these biases also affect us, but they affect us to lesser extents, because I would say we're less likely to care about brand and impressing other people.
Hmm.
So we're more about, does this stuff function or not function?
Yeah, absolutely. So Harsh, I have a couple of your tweets pulled up. Did you have any other thing to add to what we were talking about before I bring up one of your tweets?
Not particularly, except that if someone wants to have a lot of ice cream, here is what I recommend, okay? Take skim milk and put it in the freezer and have it with some bananas. It tastes good. I don't do this regularly. It's just something I discovered from the internet once, and I tried it and it did taste good. So if you are someone who's gonna have like a lot of ice cream, take some skim milk, blend it with some bananas, and freeze it. It doesn't taste half bad.
Do you recall that period, Harsh, where a lot of like people who would go to the gym a lot would say that like right after the gym, I eat some ice cream?
I'm not sure if that was a period or not, but I've heard that insulin is one of the most anabolic things in your body. So it might be of use. But I think it's
Hmm.
just people like they need the carbs, right? Like they're craving it.
Yeah, like you heard of GNC, right? Where they sell like a lot of the supplements.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I go to a GNC and there's like this brolic looking dude, and like we're talking about like his uh, workout routines and everything, and he told me that he eats like a whole carton of ice cream right after his workouts. He's like, my body just like soaks it up. I was like, was that good for you? I mean, like, should you do that? And he's like, if you work out like me, son, you could do that. So I don't know if there was like a level of intensity you have to do in order to unlock that privilege.
I don't know how many calories is a carton of ice cream.
I don't know, let me check. He wasn't even talking about the calories that much. He was talking about what you were talking about, like the insulin and like how my body needs it because I fried up a lot of glycogen. He was using a lot of these fancy words, man.
I
Tattooed
can
with it.
I can attest to the fact that sometimes, like after a very heavy workout, it helps to have some carbs to help you recover. Like sometimes if I have to code and I've just had a heavy workout, like it'll affect my coding ability. But if I have some carbs and wait a bit for it to get in my blood,
Hmm.
then it'll help me with recovery so much faster.
Gotcha. Let me see. Because you were asking me how much calories this has.
Any ice cream, like calories in one carton of ice cream, calories in one carton ice cream. So apparently, in one large scoop of ice cream, there are about 250 calories. So yeah, that's not so bad.
Not too
Like
bad.
250
Okay.
calories you can burn if you like do a strength training workout and do like 20 minutes of cardio along with it.
Hmm.
250 calories is fine. So you can eat that, but it'll like take away all the calories you burned in the workout.
Have you ever seen one of those gyms that like has like they'll give pizza inside the gym
What kind
or
of
they'll
gym
bring
is that?
donuts?
That's bullshit.
When I lived in Virginia, man, like there were like a couple of gyms that gave food to you on like a particular day. Sometimes they'd bring a donut, sometimes pizza. Like, like I was like, it seems a little counterproductive.
Is this like one of those gyms where people go to bulk?
No, no, it's just like a typical gym.
Yeah, that's ridiculous then.
Hmm. You
That's
said you
really
work out at
stupid.
home, right?
Yeah, I bought equipment at home. I've been working out at home. Although sometimes I'll go to the gym just for like a change of pace.
I was gonna say, like, don't you ever get like bored working out at home?
Not really, not really. I rarely get bored. Like I don't even use music while working out.
Man, you're savage, dude.
No, I just find it distracting, like to have music. I want to focus on my workout.
Wasn't there a study that said like if you listen to high intensity music, like you could actually lift more?
I don't know about the study, but I feel like my form is much better when I'm not listening to anything and I'm just like focusing on what I'm doing.
Hmm. I'm seeing if I could find a study like that. Well, you could find studies for everything nowadays, but yeah, I mean, there's like a muscle and fitness article. Like, can music help you lift more weight? There's a bunch of articles talking about it, so I wonder if there's some truth to it. I do
I
get
can
your
see.
perspective too, where before I used to like need. I wouldn't say I needed instrumentals, but instrumentals would help me out a lot when I was writing. Nowadays, like I got rid of the headphones. Like I just write without like in complete silence, and it allows me to get in the flow much quicker. So I can understand what you're talking about in the gym context.
Hmm. I totally know what you're talking about with the whole being able to lift more things because when I used to go running, and this was many years ago, I don't go running anymore because it kills muscle growth. But when I used to go running, I would have music on because it would like distract you from the actual process of you getting tired, right?
Hmm.
And you would be able to run much longer because you were not focused on your body, feeling tired because you were listening to music.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can see how it can help. It can like distract you from your fatigue or
Yeah,
the burn of the lactic acid.
not only distract, it also like motivates you. Like some people like visualize while they're lifting. So like they're listening to some upbeat music, their mind is engaged, their body is engaged. It's an experience. Like those days when I forget my headphones at my crib, I'm like, man, it's just not the same experience as when you have music, you're lifting. It's a vibe.
I think a lot of people are addicted to music where if they do something that they usually do with music, try to do it without music, they can't do it as well, or they feel that something is lacking. So I think that to an extent, it is an addiction where your body starts requiring it. And if you're not listening to music, you feel like something is missing. Like I know this one guy who
Mhm.
listens to music all the time, even in the bathroom. So when he's going for a shower, this is what he says. Like he has to take his phone in the shower to put music on, and he's
Mm.
always listening to music. Anytime I like see him, he has headphones on. He's listening to music, and that's an addiction.
Yeah, I would say that's pretty up there. I wouldn't say I'm addicted, but I would say like in the gym context, yeah, like I definitely. It's not like now I'm gonna sound like an addict, but I was like I could stop anytime I want to. It's just allows for a pleasant experience for me, man. But like the whole bathroom thing, like I know people who do that, like with they get like speakers too, like the Bluetooth speakers, and they're blasting it. I think that's overkill. Like, do you take cold showers? Like, like how that's
Not
like a
really,
thing,
not
but
really.
okay.
It's not possible to do them in India because it's a hot country, right? So water isn't cold.
What was up with that? Like, I kept seeing, like, it's like you gotta take cold showers in order to be more productive. Like, is that actually a thing?
So the concept is, have you heard of contrast showers?
Yeah, it's like when you go from cold to hot, cold to hot.
Yeah, it's supposed to help with muscle recovery. And then I think it just got caught on in the whole manosphere self improvement space where you have to wake up and take a cold shower to prove how disciplined you are, which is which is fair, like if you are say in a Western country where water is actually like freezing cold and you're getting in like freezing cold water, then yeah, that's hard.
Hmm.
I know that for a fact because sometimes I'll go to a hill station to chill out, and hill stations in India are like cold, right? They're like freezing cold, like maybe 10 degrees, like 5-10 degrees Celsius, and the water is also cold. And I will sometimes opt not to have a shower. Like it's too cold for this bullshit. I'm not doing it.
Yeah. I'm like that too, man. I hate the cold weather and cold showers especially.
So I can see how having a cold shower in a cold country can like make you more disciplined. In India, I just don't see the point.
Some of the stuff sometimes seems excessive. It's like you should be having other stuff in your life that's difficult, that's challenging you, where you're not getting all caught up with these shower stuff. Because there were groups of people that were very religious with that. They were like team cold shower. They were like building this cult following with it. It's too
You
much.
know, the thing on the internet is that you need to have something to talk about, right? If you're gonna like build a following, you need to have a theme or something. And
Mm.
some people pick these weird themes, and then they're like, talking about them all the time. And
It's like a new
if you
theme
meet
every month.
them, like if you meet them in real life, they're not always talking about cold showers, but on the net, because cold showers are their theme, they're like always on about this.
Man, there was a tweet where I didn't do cold showers. I did dark showers where I took I took all the lights off. I don't have any windows or anything, so it was pitch black. And the reason I did it was because it allowed me to be with my thoughts, and it surprisingly made me more creative. Or me personally, I don't say that it's a scientific thing. So I wrote a tweet on it, and it got a lot of support, and it got a lot of backlash. Like some people were like, "Oh, well, yeah, I'll do that too if I want to break my neck." And multiple people just kept saying that. And I'm like, "All right, man. I mean, like, trust me, I have systems in place so I don't break my neck." But I get a DM from a guy, and he's like, "Man, I've been trying out this dark showers thing. This is the next big thing. This is gonna overtake cold showers." And like the way he's typing, I feel like he wants me to like recruit him to
Our dog shower cult.
"W- we could be the founders of this, man. And I'm like, bro, it's not that big of a deal. Like I just do it because it's therapeutic for me. I made a tweet about it and
Just
that's it.
admit it, you're trying to save on electricity.
I wonder how many like things start off like that. Is it just like one guy just doing it as a regular activity? Then other people come in, they're like, yes, this is it. This is the new theme that we need. And then they run with it.
I find that to be very curious actually, because people who are actually poor, okay, they can't afford heating. They
Hmm.
hate cold showers. They want to have normal showers. And then there's like people like this who are like who have the money to pay for the heating and they're like taking cold showers.
Yeah,
Likewise, some people don't have money to buy shoes, and some people are buying shoes that make you feel like you're bare feet.
I see exactly what you're saying. It's like, why do you think
It's
that
a
is?
weird dichotomy in the world, right?
Hmm.
Where we all want what we don't have. And a lot of the things, a lot of the modern things especially, are there because people were really tired and didn't really want the antique way of life. So they invented all the modern stuff. But the modern way of life is also like not as great. And some people want to go back to the antique.
I had a tweet where I said like all technology is created to either make you communicate better or to distract you from the mind. And I mean, can you name any technology that doesn't fit those two requirements? That either helps you communicate better or distracts you from the mind?
I wouldn't say communicate better, but I would say like to fulfill some need or to help you out with some task. For example, fishing rods were not made to communicate, like to help you communicate better.
No, that
They
that I would say that would distract you from the mind.
no, like it's used to
It's
get food.
it's used to get food, but like I'm talking about like nowadays, like a lot of people just do it for um
Yeah,
therapy.
nowadays, yeah, but okay, I'll give. I think you're
Well,
picking a French case.
no,
Most
let's take it.
people
Let's take it a
fish.
level further. Not any because I didn't know you were gonna bring up fishing poles. All digital technology. How about that? 'Cause yeah,
Uh,
yeah, fishing pole is a technology, but like that's not
like
how
the
I
bow and
meant the tweet.
arrow.
Yeah, I didn't know you were gonna go there. I'm talking about like modern technology.
I wouldn't agree with that either. For example, a tractor wasn't made to help you communicate better. People just didn't want to like plow by hand or use a bull or whatever. That was a lot of work. So
Mm,
tractors are much easier.
okay. So
Digital
you're
technology, for example, like video games, is a distraction of the mind. You're right.
that's a distraction of the mind.
But for example, Excel is not a distraction of the mind. Okay, it is used to communicate
It's
better.
to communicate better. Yeah.
Better. Wait, let me think. That's an interesting question for digital technology. Hmm. Uh, 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 I think you might be right with that. But let me think of some counter examples just to like.
Eh, have you before like you got since you bought up fishing? Have you ever gone fishing before?
Not really, man. I think like being a vegetarian like takes away a lot of these things from your life where you just don't get to
Oh,
try it.
yeah, man, dude, fishing is so much fun. Like, I love fishing.
How when did you learn how to fish?
So when I was a little kid, my uncle and my dad taught me, and I was lucky growing up in the U.S. where there was like a pond right behind me. So your boy would do a lot of fishing, and I thought I was the stud. And then one day I go to Bangladesh, and I go to like the village side of the Bangladesh where they're gonna be like, "Oh, you think you know how to fish? We're gonna show you how to really fish." And I kid you not, man, there was this big lake where one guy stands on one side, the other guy stands on another side with this huge net, and they're basically just going through it, and they're capturing like all these fishes for the entire village. And afterwards, they're like, "That's how you really fish." I was like, "Like, all right, man, like, you know how to really fish."
When I fish, I fish.
Yeah, when I fish, I fish. It-
Wait, so I have to ask you, when you were fishing with a rod, right?
yeah,
So how many fish were you catching per hour?
per hour, I wouldn't say it was like per hour. I was catching a lot. Because this was a residential lake. I would catch one, like it's hard to predict, man. Like one day I'll catch like three in 1 hour. Another day I'll be there for 3 hours and catch nothing. So
Ah,
yeah, and then fishing is a lot of fun, man. Like I think like it automatically when people think of it, they're like, oh, it's for old people. But I think it's a good way to just sit back, relax, chill.
Arman, I have to ask you one other thing, okay, regarding fishing.
Okay.
How much does a fishing rod cost?
Oh, not
I've
too
heard
much.
it's very expensive. Like I've heard like the high end ones are like $500 or something.
Yeah, I mean, you could get one of those, bro. I got one for like 20 bucks, man.
I see. Do you keep the fish you fish or do you put it back in the water?
A lot of them I would keep. Later on, like these idiotic residential people are like, oh, you're not allowed to do that, right? And if you're gonna fish, you're gonna have to throw it back in the water. I'm like, the hell? Like, what's the point of doing that? That's like you go to a club, you get a girl's number, and then you just delete it right after getting it. Like, what's the point
I,
of doing that, man?
it was for the challenge.
So it's like they suck the life out of it, man. Like I really liked fishing, but then like the residential people started to make all these rules, and it wasn't the same anymore.
In China they're still having lockdowns for COVID, right?
Hmm.
I saw a video of someone who lives in like a high-rise building, like a skyscraper, and from the 20th or some floor, this guy is using a fish. So let me set this context, okay? So
Okay.
in China, they're having lockdowns for COVID, and people are just being locked into their buildings, and they are not being given food. So a lot of them are literally running out of food and starving. Like they literally don't have enough to eat because they can't go out to buy food because China has to have zero COVID. So these guys, I saw a video of some guy using a fishing rod and
Hmm.
then catching a fish from like the aquarium thing they have as a decoration right under his apartment.
Hmm.
Like in China, I don't know if they do it
Of course.
everywhere in China, but like, there's like a place where there's like a bunch of water and some fish swimming there. There's supposed to be decoration. And
Uh-huh.
from like the 20th floor, he's using a fishing rod to get the fish. And he's reeling it up all the way.
Not all heroes wear capes.
It's really, really, really funny. Okay.
I'm picturing it right now. I'm telling you, man. Like when you're in that lake or wherever you are, and you're not catching something for a while, you're surprisingly getting more engaged. So when you finally catch one, like it's this thrill, man. It's like this drug in some ways, where you're like, yes, I caught one, and the day can be marked successful.
I see. I've had fish once. I had fish recently. My friends ordered like fish fry, and I took like a couple of pieces of it. It was interesting. It was much lighter than chicken is.
Yeah,
in the sense that it's like fluffier. It's almost like, you touch it and it shakes and jiggles everywhere. It's like
it's
jelly.
flaky. Yeah, absolutely. So this was your first time trying fish ever?
Yeah, I just wanted to try it just to see the difference.
Hmm. See, that's a lot of people I know, like they'll be like, I'm vegetarian. Oh, but I eat fish too. Like they'll just throw that in there. And I'm
Oh,
like,
that happens like in Bengal.
in Bengal, okay. And
That's a Bengal thing. Yeah, they consider fish to be vegetarian.
is that technically allowed or no?
I don't know. So I don't have fish or any other meat, like, except every once in a while. And like, I'm not like super strict about the stuff. So
Hmm.
I'll occasionally have chicken also. But yeah, like most traditional Hindus would consider fish to be non-vegetarian and would not eat it if
Oh,
they're vegetarian themselves. Except in Bengal, where they seem to consider fish to be vegetarian. I think even the Brahmins there eat fish.
okay. Okay. So, all right. You know what I was thinking about recently, Harsh?
Hmm.
One of our episodes, we were talking about space, and we're like, man, like, why do humans get so attracted to space? And we were spitting out some theories. We're like, I think it's because it talks about potential, like our undiscovered areas. Yeah, it just imagination. I was thinking, like, in terms of the ocean, I wonder how much of the stuff that we're capable of knowing we actually know in regards to the ocean. Because, like, something about the blue whale. Like, have you ever seen a picture of the blue whale? Like, how big it is?
Yeah, it's huge.
I'm like, man, it's so huge that it actually, like, falls under the description for me as an alien. So I'm like, we're over here, I like thinking about, like, wow, like the space, it has so much undiscovered potential. I wonder how much undiscovered potential is in the ocean.
A lot. In fact, have you heard of deep sea? Like, the very bottom of the sea. There is zero
Mhm.
light there, right? There's no light. And every once in a while, they'll keep finding a new species of fish there or
Mm,
some new octopus or something in the deep sea. Because in the deep sea, it's complete darkness. It's very hard to get to the deep sea because it's so much pressure. And yeah, you can't dive there, of course, because the pressure is so high that it'll crush you. You would
right.
die. So a lot of these animals which exist only in the deep sea are a lot of them are pretty much undiscovered because it's really
Mm,
hard to like find those animals. And every once in a while some weird animal will like wash up dead on the ocean, like on the beach,
yeah.
and it would be like a deep sea animal, and they usually look weird also because in the deep sea there is no light, right? So a
Hmm.
lot of these animals don't haven't like formed color. So surface animals have color, surface fish have like different colors.
Hmm.
But deep sea animals, it's complete darkness, no photons reach there. So a lot of them have like no color. They are
Man,
these transparent jelly like creatures.
what if something's bigger than the blue whale?
Could be, I don't know.
So apparently, do you know how big a blue whale is?
I don't know the number, how big it is, but I know it's huge.
So it can grow from 80 to 100 feet, which is 24 to 30 meters.
Yeah, that is huge.
It's huge, bro. And it's like, hold on. Uh, what you guys go by kgs, right?
Yeah, yeah. Normal,
Okay.
like non-retard units only.
Okay, so a tip, like, pounds wise, it goes up to 330,000 pounds to 149,685 kg. Like,
Yeah, with numbers like this, you can for pound if you had to convert pounds to kilos,
mhm.
first to minus 10% and divide by two. So in this case, it would be 150,000 kilos instantly.
Okay, so dude, like, that's crazy. Like something like that living on Earth, like to me, that's an alien.
The weight kind of, I don't think you could consider the weight of a fish like a fish because in water it weighs differently. Like there is buoyancy, right?
Hmm. I don't know if they're
So
factoring in all of that. You think they're factoring in that?
no, right? So this is the weight on land, which doesn't make any sense whatsoever because in water the thing might be weightless.
Yeah, but what I'm trying to stress is that
It's
is big,
huge.
is huge. And I'm like, dude, man, like this. I wonder how many other creatures in water are like that, or something that's, you know, freaky, like an octopus. Like we see it in all these shows, all this stuff, and we're like, oh yeah, whatever, it's an octopus.
Like
I'm like,
giant octopuses, yeah.
yeah, and I'm like, that's a pretty alien-like creature. And I wonder how much stuff underwater is like that.
You know, if we had aliens, I would say cephalopods are the most likely candidate. They're really intelligent. Cephalopods, like octopus, cuttlefish,
Yeah,
like
I never
really,
heard that
really
name
intelligent.
before.
Cuttlefish is this creature which is like a fish, but it
Hmm.
has this ability to change its color to camouflage with the environment, and it does it in such an accurate way that in many cases it's like impossible to tell as a cuttlefish here. So cuttlefish is an amazing thing, and it has no brain in the sense that, like, you know how we have a section in our body which is like our brain, right?
Hmm.
For cuttlefish and octopuses and cephalopods in general, the brain is like spread out across their body. So they don't have like a central place where which is their brain, like all other animals have. A cephalopod's brain is across its entire body.
Whoa, that's
That's what makes
crazy,
it the most alien-like creature on the planet.
man. So, how did you know this? Like, are you someone who's like interested in animals?
Not really. I came
Hmm.
across a book. In fact, I used to subscribe to this thing called KI Book Club, if you've heard of it.
Hmm.
Key
I've
Book
heard of it.
Club. And what these guys do is they summarize books and they give you a summary every week via email. And one of them was on cephalopods. Let me find the name
Oh,
of the book. One sec. I think it was
okay.
called Aliens Among Us or something. One sec.
Have you ever heard of the Loch Ness monster?
I have heard of it. I don't know what that is.
Okay, I had like when I was a little kid, I had to do a book report on Scotland, and apparently, like, there's this thing called a Loch Ness monster that a lot of people saw, and it's apparently in a lake, and you'll often see like these different pictures that are like created or shown on Google Images that'll be like, "This is the Loch Ness monster," and there's this like huge debate on whether or not it really exists or if it's just imagination, kind of like
I need
Bigfoot.
to Google that. One sec. Loch Ness Monster.
Yeah, and it's LOCHNESS.
Looks like a swan. Okay. Looks like a dinosaur, like a mini dinosaur.
Mhm.
I don't know. Is it like a normal animal or is it like just a myth?
So in the book report, I forgot what I wrote, but I mean, right now it's very divided. Like a lot of Scottish people, natives said that they've seen it. While a lot of native people are like, nah, it's just imagination.
I see.
It's like Bigfoot.
Interesting.
Have you ever heard of Bigfoot?
Yeah, I've heard of
Sasquatch?
Bigfoot. Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder where
Dude,
they get that stuff from, man.
it's like some people want some attention, so they make up something like UFOs.
Yeah.
Like I saw a UFO type of stuff, and I would say that I say that's where it's coming from. Like even kids do that, right? Where they make up something for attention.
Mm-hmm.
Same tendency. But I think that back in the day, it was harder to prove something wrong because people were more superstitious.
Yeah. There's another one called Chupacabra. Have you heard
I
of
have
that?
no idea what that is. I don't know. I don't know.
Okay, yeah, you could just Google image this. There's a lot of like these pictures that show chupacabra spottings. I think this is more of a Spanish thing, like the Spanish regions.
Yeah, see, this type of stuff is bullshit, okay? Like this guy looks like a human but has a weird face. That's
For
bullshit.
chupacabra? Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. There's this. I just typed in news, and there was a story on it 3 days ago. Harsh, Texas Zoo warns of possible chupacabra sighting.
Yeah, that's bullshit, okay? Like it would not survive in Texas, they shouldn't.
Any plans to ever go to Texas or any place in the U.S. or private
No
or
comment.
no
I
comment?
might have
Okay.
been there already, but no comment.
Oh, okay, okay. Do you travel a lot, like outside of India?
No comment.
No comment. Okay. See, some of the questions I'm like, what am I not supposed to ask? And you've done a great job and just keeping things private. Like you never let stuff slip out.
I try.
I'm not gonna lie, bro. I actually thought for a long time your last name was Strongman. I was like, what a cool last name, man.
It could be.
That's funny, man. We talked about a lot of random topics today.
I have to say the fishing one was the most interesting one.
Yeah. There was this do you ever like read any of these forums like on bodybuilding or just
I
building
used to
muscle?
back in the day,
I
but
used
not
to too.
anymore.
And I saw this one guy who wrote, I've been doing my best to lose weight. I mean, I go to the gym for X, Y, and Z times. I no, he didn't say gym. He's like, I eat this type of food. I go fishing for 3 hours a day, and I'm still not losing any weight. And people were like, fishing isn't cardio, you idiot. And I just pictured this guy like, how was he fishing to consider that cardio? Maybe he was fishing like those people like in the village where they use the net. Like when they
Yeah,
fish,
yeah, maybe
they
like he's
fish.
actually going boating.
Yeah. When I told that story to other people, they're like, "Well, I mean, that's not really fishing. They're kind of cheating because you got that big net. Like, that doesn't require any skill. It's more brute force." But you have to see that, man. Like, if you ever go to a village and you see the people, like, they're ripped, and I'm like, man, what do you like? You guys eat just rice all day. Like, how are you guys getting this ripped? Is because they're lifting a lot of stuff and doing a lot of these awkward movements. They're
And
shredded, man.
eating the fish, which
Eating
is
the
good for
fish,
protein. Yeah.
good for protein. I'm talking like some of the guys are like 55, 60, like six pack, like big necks, like huge traps. I'm like, well,
Damn,
damn.
that's really good.
It,
That's interesting. I know a lot of people who are like fishermen, like from say families or friends, etc. And they're like really thin and skinny and not big at all. That's interesting that you mentioned that your people are big.
hmm Another thing is like prison workouts. Like when someone comes out of a prison, like it's this common saying, like, "Oh, he's been working out in prison." But I'm thinking, like, how are these people getting so big in prison? Like, there's a set amount of meals that they have. Like, what gives? And they've been making more documentaries on that on YouTube, and they talk about like, well, you're by yourself all day, so either you read or you lift. Those are the two main activities that you can do. So a lot of people they just find different ways to move their body, and you could get slick with it with the food part. Like you could always have like certain people give you extra food. There's a lot of ways to like smuggle things into a prison. Um, Interesting documentary because I didn't see how people get bigger in prison.
Prison is like its own society. I remember watching this movie. It's called The Shawshank Redemption. I don't know if you've heard of it,
I have heard
but
of
this
it.
movie is about this guy who gets in prison for like 20 years. And a lot of the people in the prison are also in prison for the longest time, right? They're like serving 8, 9 year sentences. So for them, prison is like this little village, and they have this entire culture thing going on in that prison. So I don't know. I've never been to prison, so I can't tell if that's
Sure
actually
about
true
that?
or not.
hmm
So yeah, it does seem like it's like it's its own village in the sense where people have social life and everything. Like
And
it's
people
not
get
like,
into gangs too.
are you sure they get into gangs or do they come there because of the gangs?
So what happens with prison, Harsh, is that a lot of them like they have gangs like inside the prison, and one of the best ways to survive, depending on like how intense the prison is. Like some people like will go to a certain prison where like it's like maximum security is needed, and that's when they join gangs to like keep themselves protected. So a lot of this is when the tribalism part comes in. A lot of the Spanish people go with the Spanish people, white people go with the white people, black people go with the black people. Um, but yeah, that's what typically happens.
I remember reading that white people have the roughest time in American prisons because Black people have their black people gangs in prison. Mexicans have Mexican gangs in prison, but white people are like so not racist that they don't typically form their own gangs or something.
Really? I could have sworn
I
that
don't know.
there's like.
Someone needs to confirm this. I don't know. I'm not American, but I just read this on somewhere. I don't remember where now. This was many years ago. So apparently, like white people who are like not racist will not join a gang, or like it would not be their first thing to do, and they're targeted more than others because they have like the least protection.
Mm, man, that's terrifying, man. Like just being in a prison, and some people spend their entire life there. Did you ever
Yeah,
hear about the people that like have spent so long there that like once they come out, they're so terrified by the change of the society that they immediately get back into trouble and they go back into prison? Because in prison, like there's a certain set structure. And if you're there for a long time, you sort of understand the politics of it. So there are people that do that.
I see. So you mean like they can't fit into society again?
Yeah, and they're just like, man, now I gotta like go for my own food. Like in prison, I was having my food delivered to me, or I at least had a certain schedule, and they're more familiar with the prison life now. Because some people like they've spent a longer time in prison than outside of prison.
This brings a question where is the purpose of prison punishment or is it rehabilitation? Because if it was punishment, then it worked well, right? It punished this guy. If it was rehabilitation, then it like didn't do its job
Mm-hmm.
because this guy can't join society again, like because of whatever thing he had in prison.
Mm-hmm.
He isn't like going to function in society anymore because he got used to the prison life.
Right. Right.
It's an interesting debate. I
Yeah.
personally think it's about revenge and like punishment.
Right. Hmm. That's a pretty good question. Because it does happen. Like some people, they'll come out of prison and they'll be superstars. Like they never want to make a mistake like that again. They, start working their way up and they're able to do something with their lives. But there are a lot of people that are so traumatized from it where like they either just get back into the same trouble again or they just can't adjust with the times.
I think some people were not meant to live in society in the sense that
Mm,
we have our variation, right? And some people, whatever genetic reason they might have, they can't fit into society and will typically commit crimes.
mhm.
So if there was no prison system, there would be basically serial killers or whatever.
Do you know anyone that, like, from your circle, like anywhere throughout your life, they don't even have to be close to you, that went to jail or prison?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's like, were you close to them?
not particularly.
Man, it's spooky, man, because you never know like where someone is going to be 10 to 15 years from now, and a small percentage of them will be in prison or they're going to be convicted for some serious crime.
Yeah, it's weird, like across the past 5 years, I know people who have died from like drug overdoses, drinking too much alcohol,
Mm-hmm.
or weird things like that, car accidents that they caused.
Mm,
So you never know where someone will be in 5, 10 years, like if they would be around or not. Like
yeah.
if you had asked me when I was 18, do I know anyone who would die from a drug overdose, I would have said no.
Mm-hmm.
But here we are.
Here we are. Like, you can never predict. Like the Zingo, like I told you, like I used to be a driver, like before Lyft Uber was a
Mhm.
thing, and I would drive with this one guy. Let me just call him Jerry. Dude, Jerry was like this black guy with this fro. Like he was smooth. Like he could talk to anyone, and like he had this charm about him. And he would always stack up like these huge amounts of tips. And mind you, like Zingo pretty much drove drunk people back home. So, they're tipsy, they're feeling a little bit more loose with the wallet. They'll sometimes give a $20, $100, or even more. And Jerry was making so much money. And I'm like, man, the sky's the limit for this guy. Like, he could talk up a storm. And 7 years passes on by. And I see him on a newspaper article sentenced to prison for having child pornography.
What the fuck?
I'm like, man, like I was literally driving with this guy. I had no clue like at all about like what kind of guy this guy was, but like what he got like sentenced for was very serious crimes. Like 7 years later, and like 1 second, like I'm thinking like the sky's the limit for this guy, and then the next second I'm like, wow, what a terrifying crime.
I think people who make child pornography should be put to death. Like round them up and shoot them.
Yeah, I mean,
Like, that's a fucked up thing.
so yeah, I mean that's kind of like the point that I was trying to make, or like the you never know where someone's gonna be, man. So it's like when you see an elderly person who hasn't gotten into any significant trouble in their life, and they've reached the state of being elderly, respect to them, man, because they had to go through a lot of stuff that that they may not even be aware of. But I mean, life is volatile.
Yeah, man, you just don't know. In fact, you even don't know about the good guys who just like someone you like someone a lot and they get into a car accident and poof, they're gone.
Hmm. It's sad, especially the car accident part, man. Like, cause it's such a
It's a
common
random stuff,
activity.
right? It's so
Mhm,
random.
mhm. Or like a murder, like they got murdered.
The murder is rare, but the car accident is like it's a possibility. You could compute
Mhm.
it.
Yeah. Um, how are you looking with schedule?
I have to get some sleep. It's past 12. Got to get some dinner and get some sleep.
Okay. We hit the 2 hour mark. That was a fun episode. We talked about a lot of stuff. I recall laughing a lot. So
Yeah, me too. It was funny.
fun episode. Well, folks, thank you very much for joining the Unapologetic Truths podcast. Be sure to drop that like and hit that subscribe because this is a new channel and we are currently growing it. Any last statements, Harsh?
No, not for this episode.
Sounds good. Thank you
What
guys.
about you?
Nope, no more other announcements. I feel like we said a lot today. Thank you guys very much for joining the Unapologetic Truths podcast, and we will catch you next time.
Bye bye, everyone. Cool. Let me end the broadcast.